Well, I want to talk about the No Kings protest, but first, I guess I have to talk about fan art, because, this is what I just saw in the fan art section. Orange Fire said, hey, I made fan art of a YouTuber for the first time. It's Suris doing some yee-yee pose. I'm not good at drawing women. Those tits are gigantimous. Jesus Christ. Thank you, Orange Fire. I appreciate it. If you want your fan art to be shown in a future video, the best way to do so is to drop it into the fan art section of the Discord. With that said, let's go ahead and get into things. So I'm going to go ahead and put up footage here. Let me go ahead and lower that down a little bit. There we go. So the footage you're going to be seeing here is all from my live stream at the No Kings protest. Now, for those who don't know, what the No Kings protest was, it was, of course, the second protest against the current authoritarian bent of the Republican Party. Now, that authoritarian bent was just as bad during the last No Kings protest, but during the last protest, we hadn't yet had the falling out between Musk and Trump. Now, they've had their falling out, and it's mostly just Trump who's trying to use executive orders to reshape the face of how the United States looks and works at the moment. And that's just shitty. Anyway, Clueless Expert says, the few parts I watched of Saturday's stream had me reeling because of all the patriotism. As someone who's not American, but also not patriotic at all and felt for their country. So yeah, a thing that got to me at this protest, so I didn't go to the main one in Atlanta, but I did go to one that was closer to my area. One of the things that did get to me during this was the amount of times that people were doing, like, just "We Love America" chants, and I get it, I really do. There's two sides to that coin. On the one side, you have the people who genuinely love America and what it should stand for, and do their chants accordingly, and then there's the side of people who don't actually give a crap, but they know that those chants ring better with right-wingers than anything else, and have a smaller chance of us getting attacked when we do. Now, as for this particular protest, I got here about 20 minutes after it started, and I set up my stream with no commentary and started filming from behind. This is because the way that our area was set up, we were not allowed to stand 10 feet. We weren't able to stand anywhere within 10 feet of the curb. So since I didn't get there first, I didn't want to get in front of everybody and be like, aha, my camera's here, fuck all of y'all. But let me scroll through some of the footage here, because most of this is just talking about, or me just showing you what all happened during the actual protest. But the interesting thing for me was not the protest itself. The protest obviously was a lot of people who just are not a fan of the current regime. That is to be expected, but as we go through, there are a couple of highlights that I want to talk about. One of those highlights, if I can get to it, where is it? Where are you, buddy? Ah, here's the highlight. Here's the highlight. This was like one of the best parts of the entire ordeal for me once it allows me to scan over to where it is. Clueless Expert says, for me, I don't care where I live, but I have to live somewhere, and modern fascism spreads everywhere, so if I'm threatened by it, I'd rather fight it than flee it. So, the first thing for me was this dog. I adored this dog. This giant puppo required all of the love. You have no idea. You have no idea. The other thing that I noticed, and I'm going to scale a little further up here, was the amount of people who were wearing inflatable suits. And you can't really see it from where I'm positioned, but there were a few people who were holding signs saying that we were part of the Frog Army. So, if you don't know, people have been wearing inflatable frog suits to fuck with ICE facilities. So, seeing people in those inflatable suits here, honestly, really fucking funny. Not gonna lie. It's a very, you have to be in on the joke type of thing, but you are there. Clueless Expert says the Portland frogs are peak. Yup. There was also another doggo. Look at this little guy. Look at him. Look at him. Anyway, this is where I want to get to the next part that was interesting. Aside from the inflatable Mike Wazowski that was over here and more inflatable people. Lots of inflatable people. Like, in the small town I was in, I mean, we had like 450 people here. But It's this guy right about here, who I want to focus on. You see this one guy wielding his Trump sign, or wielding his Trump flag? So you'll notice that the police are stationed right about here. So here's the story I was told. This guy over here with the Trump flag had started an altercation with the protesters during the last major protest that happened in the city. Apparently, one of the things he does with his time is find where a left-wing protest is happening and goes to start shit. However, I didn't see him actively start shit here. So that's just the information that I got from the police, and it may or may not be accurate. I don't know. Takei says now to get Suris an inflatable Sonic costume. So I'm unsure. However, I decided that what I wanted to do while all this was going on, I wanted to go and talk to that person. So here's the story of what happened there. Now, it started out with me trying to get over to him and have a conversation, which had an issue. So the police had effectively designated the end of the zone where we were standing as the end of our zone, and counter-protesters were allowed to be in the other zone where the dude with the singular Trump sign was standing. And, you know, it's really weird to me. The police did not want any of us interacting. So I walked over to the guy, introduced myself, and asked if he'd be willing to have a conversation with me. And he said that he would be okay with it, but the police may not be. So I talked to the police and they said, I'd rather you not. I'd rather you go over with the other protesters right now. But I'm a persistent asshole. And I remember not being able to get my interviews with right-wingers that I was looking for when I was over in DC. I wasn't able to accomplish the goal that I had came to when I was there. I got to film a lot of people doing protest things, but not the one that I wanted to do, not the thing that I had aimed to do. So I was not going to be deterred. I wanted to be able to talk to this guy who had decided to come out and talk, well, not talk, but come out and counter-protest us. So I kept on with the police and said, okay, so you don't want me to bring my camera rig over that's on the tripod? No. They did not want me to do that. Okay, that's fair. What if and I just pulled out my phone, because I have a phone for streaming, and I have a phone for my VTuber model, and I have a phone for myself. So I pulled out a different phone and said, what if I streamed on this one? What if I recorded on this phone instead? What if I left my camera rig over there, filming the protest? And of course, that's what you see here. This is the camera rig filming the protest as I'm walking over there talking with the police. And finally, the officer that I'm talking to, he looks really agitated and goes and talks to the chief of police. Comes back over to me and says, that should be fine, but if I see anything get started, then I am going to have to intervene. Okay, sure, that's fine. That's entirely fine. I now have my permission to do my thing without getting interrupted and getting in trouble. I don't know why I would even need that permission in the first fucking place. If there's one thing me and the right-winger could agree on, it's the fact that the police should not be allowed to police this fucking interaction. But regardless, let me go ahead and show you how this particular scenario played out. Here we go. So my name is Suris. I do political content a lot. I'm not gonna lie. As far as my political affiliations, I am further left, but I am open to conversations.
Me too.
I want to figure out, because my thought process is, we've probably got more in common than we don't.
Right.
At the end of the day, I'll just ask a question. Now, granted, I have not done this before. So I am going to preface this with the fact that I am used to being the one in control of the microphone. I am used to, unless I'm on a debate stage, basically having the stage. This is a more neutral scenario, and I wasn't as comfortable as I probably would be in a follow-up. I'm actually kind of happy that this happened a little more local to me instead of my original plan in DC. Something to let me get a little more confidence on. Is it in our best interest as a nation for us to have freedom?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool. So we can agree freedom's good.
Yeah.
Like, freedom's great.
Right.
Okay, cool. So, there's a whole
a cop right there
protest
tell you where
there.
You can stand at. They tell you where you can stand at and what you can say. That's not freedom.
Okay.
Right?
Well,
That
again,
cop tell me I can't say it. If somebody's cussed me out, I can't cuss them back.
okay. And I can see that being what you would consider an infringement on your freedom of speech.
Right.
Okay, I can understand
And they
that
did
perspective.
it. They did it.
Now, to his credit, I actually did watch one person come over to him and start getting really ugly with him before walking back away. I did see that happen while I was there. In fact, I think it might actually happen during the conversation. So there is some truth to this statement. So
The chief of police right there.
okay.
He
So-
tells me where I can stand, what I can say. But he don't say a damn word to none of these people.
Okay. So, just out of curiosity, I want to know, what is your purpose in popping out here today? Because I know for them, they've made it very loud what their purpose is. So I want to know. I want to know your story.
They're a cult.
They're a cult.
Individual.
Okay. Now, he keeps saying individual, but he's meaning to say indivisible. So indivisible is the main organizer for this particular protest that I went to. Indivisible organizes a lot of protests in the area, so that's who he's talking about. So indivisible
If
USA.
I walked over there, they would not talk to me.
Okay.
They would hold up signs.
Okay.
What does a cult do? What does the leaders don't let their followers do?
Don't let them get information from other sides. Usually.
Right, they do. So that's a cult.
Okay.
And they call us a cult. They call Republicans a cult. But they're standing there, won't talk to you. They hold up signs in free face where you can't record them. So what's the leader tell them? That's a cult.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, who is the leader over there?
Huh?
Just out of curiosity, who's the
They got
leader over
different chapters. There's a girl.
So here's the thing. A cult is not only defined by information control. That is an aspect of information control. That is an aspect of being a cult, is information control. However, there is more to a cult than simply just information control. Now, what I have learned is that pushing people into a corner and trying to own them doesn't do as well as simply allowing them to say their piece. But I do have the opportunity here. So imagine, if you would, being an individual who already has a distaste for MAGA, the movement, and the people that it's allowed to gain power. Now imagine, for a moment, that you go and start showcasing all of the red flags of somebody who is incredibly MAGA. If you are doing that, would it not make sense for people who might have an otherwise emotional response to instead put up a defense mechanism so that they don't have to engage in that emotional response? Think about the person whose family turned majorly right-wing. Think about the person whose friends and family abandoned them because they're trans. Think about what that person's idea of MAGA is, and now you're showcasing all of that to them. I can understand somebody having the negative reaction there.
Here in Palm County. Then there's one that goes Kennesaw Mountain over there. They got another chapter in Cobb County.
Okay.
Then the leader was on TV that puts all this information out because they're people. You know they got a leader.
No, so I understand that
George Soros is behind them.
George Soros is behind them. So you have evidence that George Soros is funding Indivisible.
Huh? Do you have anything to say you don't?
That's not what I'm asking, though. Okay, so this is another thing I probably should point out for people who may not know. Whenever you make a claim about something, the burden of proof is on the claimant. So if you say X is true, and I say I don't believe that, your response being, oh, do you have any evidence is not? Well, that doesn't matter. I'm not the one that made a claim. But okay. So I'm willing to believe you. I'm willing to believe you that George Soros is funding Indivisible or, Paulding County Democrats, whichever organization is doing stuff. I'm just curious if you found any information on that, because I feel like you're really plugged in politically.
Yeah.
So you'd probably know that information if you'd seen it. So I'm just curious, did you find any of that evidence? Because I want to see it if you did. I'm curious.
Yes.
Okay, you did? So where was that evidence? What was that
They've
evidence?
been talking about it in Congress. They've been talking about it. Trump has.
Okay, so Trump has been saying that George Soros funds indivisible.
What is George Soros?
So George Soros is just an individual. He's an individual who has a lot of money.
Right.
And oftentimes does things with that money that a lot of us probably don't fucking agree with.
Right.
So, I can agree with that. So, note what I'm doing here. The way I am keeping him engaged, the way that we are able to continue having this dialogue, is instead of offering pushback on every little thing to say, no, you're wrong, I'm latching onto the areas of agreement. Because if you can get somebody on board with the idea that billionaires funding political organizations should be a no-no, that's your first step. If a person has a problem with George Soros doing something, that's neither here nor there to me. My point of agreement that I think I have found is that you and I both agree that billionaires meddle in politics where they ought not, right? My question is... Well, Shoutout says, oh, Suris, this is you? Yeah, this is me going out and doing this interview myself. Twofold question. One, do we have any actual evidence that he is funding specifically here? And two, the follow-up to that would be, is there any evidence that there's funding for other movements, say, on the right wing as well? Would you say that there's no funding coming from anybody with money on the right wing?
What group are you talking about?
Well, so if we're talking right wing, there's a lot of options. There's Heritage Foundation, there's Turning Point USA.
Turning Point USA?
That is one of the organizations for the right.
And they're getting funded by who?
They are a giant organization. Like they actually. So note, he doesn't seem to have the same level of scrutiny for Turning Point USA, an organization that makes millions of dollars. He doesn't seem to have the same level of scrutiny at all for right-wing think tanks as he does for the idea that left-wing protesters might be funded. There is a there is a divide here. Do the funding.
Yeah.
Or they do the funding, they do some influence. My thing is, I'm not going to say that one side is or is not doing funding. Because I think we can both agree both sides have money that's dark.
Do they come at a certain time and leave at a certain time like they clocked out?
So,
and look here.
I
went to
Are you familiar with the website Mobilize?
I went to Kennesaw Mountain.
Okay.
They signed in.
Okay. Understandable. So, out of curiosity, do you know what Mobilize is? Do you know what the website Mobilize is?
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever RSVP'd for something before?
RSVP?
Yeah, like whenever a family member says, "Hey, let's go to a big family get together. Let's have a potluck or something." Have you ever had like a Facebook invite or something where you've just said, "Hey, I'm RSVPing onto this"?
Yeah.
Okay. So his evidence that people are being funded is that they have a clock in time and a clock out time. When you get permits to do a protest, you usually set the times that it's going to be. Everybody was ushered out by the police at 4 o'clock. The police were willing to be there from 2 to 4. This is why I asked, hey, have you ever had a family meeting? Have you ever had a family get-together where people said the time you should come in? So would that mean that you're clocking into work for that family thing?
Okay. Spin it around, buddy.
That's not me trying to spin it around.
Yeah, Trump.
I'm just trying to figure out the perspective. And note, once he's been backed into that corner, once he recognizes that he doesn't have a defense here, his response is, oh, spin it around however you want. But that's not spinning it. That's looking at a different situation that is similar and seeing if the logic holds true. For me, I saw this on Mobilize, but I'm not being paid by any of them. None of them signed my paycheck at the end of the day. So I know that I have no way of knowing for any of them.
There's a girl in Powell County that's on her website that organizes this.
Yeah, people organize things. I can agree with that.
Right.
So we can both agree people organize things. Right. That happens all the time.
10 million people with TDS will be out here today. 10 million.
10 million.
Across the United States.
Okay, so TDS. What would you say TDS is?
You know what TDS is?
So if
Trump deranged syndrome. You know what it is.
So I know the term Trump derangement syndrome, but for some people there's going to be different versions of what that sounds like. If I ask 3 people what TDS is, like especially if I ask somebody over there what TDS is, they're going to have a different answer than you. I'm not super concerned with their answer to it because they've already given me what their answer is by yelling it out to the street. I'm more curious about yours. You're on side Trump. Your story's more interesting to me.
What's the story?
That's what I'm trying to figure out for you.
Stop 8 wars already, right?
Okay. So
Now, it should be noted, whenever somebody says that Trump stopped 8 wars, one of those is the Israel-Gaza conflict, the conflict that is currently ongoing and hasn't stopped, with a ceasefire that Trump is saying is still holding, despite the strike that Israel just threw. Fun. Taryn says, you have so much more patience than I do. So, bear in mind, I have the unique situation of living deep in Trump country. This is my every Tuesday at the taco bar. Now, I've done videos talking about some of the incidents at said bar, where I've talked to right-wingers who have been really down the conspiracy sauce, but this is the first time where I've been able to get footage of one of these conversations, because having these conversations is way more interesting to me.
So, stop 8 wars.
Right.
Okay.
Got gas prices down.
Got gas prices down. Okay.
Right.
What were gas prices before we came in?
Over $3.
Over $3. And right now we're sitting at what, like 260-ish?
Yeah.
Okay. So we've had gas prices go down. There's a lot of honking. So we've had gas prices go down. We've had 8 wars stop. So would you say...
Now, I do want to note, real quick, I think it's very important. I did not have data on gas prices before I walked into that conversation, but gas prices peaked at $4 in 2022 and were on a downward trend in 2023 and 2024. So the fact that gas prices have dropped below this in 2025 is not indicative of anything Trump has done. It is indicative of a trend that we were already on. Again, I did not have that data at the time, nor do I feel like that would have been a useful talking point. But I do have the benefit of it now.
If you had to say your favorite things about Trump, those are the first 2 things you said.
Hey, look, there's my bald, ugly head.
Are you stupid, motherfucker?
Oh, right. There's the altercation. Okay, so the altercation did happen when I was filming. I don't think I turned the camera on the person who came to do the altercation, but you can hear them right about here.
Stop. So would you say if you had to say your favorite things about Trump, those are the first 2 things you said.
Are you stupid, motherfucker? You
So
want
would you-
over acting stupid?
So would you say your favorite things about Trump would be...
Now, when the guy came over to try to start something, I thought it would be way more beneficial to just pull us back to the conversation. Whether or not that was the correct thing, I don't know. Maybe an analyst who's really good at talking with people could go over that with me and tell me where they think I could improve on. Maybe that would actually be an interesting video. But I thought the right thing to do was to just pull him back. Mr. Malachite said, what did he say? He literally just walked up and say, "You're fucking stupid." I don't think that's useful. I don't think that's useful at all.
The foreign policy and how he's got a handle on the economy?
Yes.
Okay, because your first thing was the Stop 8 War, so I'm guessing you care a lot about foreign policy,
Right.
how we operate with other nations. And your second thing was the gas prices. So
And I
I'm
like
assuming.
the tariffs.
Okay, you like the tariffs.
Yes.
Okay, so you actually do enjoy the tariffs. Now, why do you like the tariffs?
Well, that helped stop one war, didn't it?
Well, so
And
Okay.
we got so dependent on China.
all right.
We should be dependent on other countries besides just China.
Okay, so
Because they could cut us off any day and our country would be
could.
awful.
They could. The flip side to that for me would be: is it a good idea, in your opinion, is it a good idea to have a good trade relation with other countries?
Yes.
Okay.
But not just with one.
Not just one. Well,
Right.
right.
Now, I don't know where he got to the opinion that the tariffs had stopped a war. That is a claim that I really did not have any evidence for or against there. That was actually the first time I've ever heard that Trump's tariffs directly stopped a war, which is definitely interesting. Goj says, I work in mental health and I'm both professionally trained, which I think is a load of shit, and more in communication if you'd like to talk about it. He managed the de-escalation correctly, but there's a fundamental flaw in conversation here. Okay.
I think we have trade relations with more than just China, because Canada buys a lot of goods from us.
I know, but
we have China that buys.
What's the most important?
What's the most important good we sell?
No. What's the biggest import that we do from what country?
Soybeans, China.
Well,
the biggest import we have is soybeans.
So I actually got this part wrong. Because I was talking about export, not import. So this is actually an area where I got something wrong in the conversation. I was talking about exports. China imports from us.
And that one does go to China. So I know that, for instance, one of the things that I'm worried about personally, we sent a lot of money to Argentina, and now Argentina...
As for imports, the biggest imports that we have here are computers. Like, our biggest imports are electronic devices. Goj says the biggest problem here is that a communication requires two parties, and both parties need to be logically and emotionally capable, for lack of better terms, and you're not getting that with this individual. True, but I have no way of controlling for that. So instead... Well, actually, hold on. I recognize that, but I feel like for that we also need to have a clearly stated goal. Because my goal here was not to change the person's mind. My goal here was to fish for information. My question is, what is the goal? Cool. So my goal is fishing for information. So it's one thing to hear like a bunch of left-wing content creators talk about why right-wingers believe the way they do, or why they do things the way they do. It's another thing entirely to just go up to somebody and have that conversation with them directly. When somebody very visibly is showing that they want to have that conversation in one way, shape, or form, in this case, it's through the communication of having his flag out in front of a protest. That is a form of communication. He's showing to me he wants to communicate his right-wing values in some way, shape, or form. Now I'm curious as to, well, what are those values? Why are they there? What are the things about Trump that you enjoy? And because people who are politically activated in District 14 of Georgia will likely be activated by similar things. That's what we see with a lot of location data. Is any of that information applicable to the audience at large, the right-wing audience at least? So the TLDR is my goal was fishing for information, not converting the person's mind. I think that attempting to change a person's mind is a largely fruitless endeavor, because I feel like, A, people don't have control over their own beliefs, and 2, we all have access to the same level of information, but we choose different sources. Getting somebody to question their beliefs is infinitely easier than trying to get them to change their beliefs. And if you can get them to question their beliefs, if you can shake those foundations even a little bit, you can get them rolling down the way to changing their beliefs. But you're never going to beat somebody in the head into changing their beliefs. That's not really going to work. You need a uniquely curious mind for somebody to be open to that kind of change through conversation alone. And I'm of the opinion that most people are not that kind of person. And you know what? There are some cases where I'm not that kind of person either.
Is selling their soybeans to China. I've got friends who work in the farming industry who are worried because they're
not my family. My family, not over in Alabama. They're not worried.
Okay, that's understandable. I've got friends who are worried, you know why? Because their soy crops are not going to work. Because they're already talking about using tariffs to pay the farmers. Okay, so they're talking about using tariffs to pay the farmers. Right. Has that happened yet?
No, not yet.
Okay, so it hasn't happened yet. So have any of them been affected yet? Out of curiosity. Because I don't know about your family's history and story with farming. So have any of them been affected by the tariffs yet?
Nope.
No, not at all. Okay.
Now it should be noted that Alabama's biggest exports, unlike say Iowa, which does do soybeans and corn, Alabama's biggest exports are vehicles, parts for vehicles, chemicals, aerospace products. Alabama does not compare to Iowa in terms of farmland.
Okay. So I have friends who are in Iowa. A big industry there is soy. They've got soy and corn.
That's where my brother-in-law just come from.
Yep. A lot of the corn gets moved around the United States. A lot of the soy ends up going over to China. They use a lot of it for gasoline and stuff. So what would you say for any of the soy farmers who actually have gotten their crops basically unable to be offloaded?
I think the tariffs that we've collected in, I think Trump will do the right thing and get them paid.
Okay.
Hey.
So just to make sure that I don't get it wrong.
You too. Fuck you.
So just to make sure I don't get it wrong, in your opinion, there's a small hit right now to agriculture because of the industries that are getting hurt, but that should bounce back when the money from the tariffs comes to those farmers.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I can understand that perspective. I can.
So, to TLDR it here, his thought process is, even when it's twofold. On the one hand, farmers are affected, but his family is directly not affected. There is an aspect of, fuck you, I got mine, that comes into that. Where somebody says that they got what they wanted. They got what they were looking for. Their family already has what it wants. And therefore, something is not a problem. Again, that mentality is literally called, fuck you, I got mine. The other side of it is he believes that if a farmer does get negatively affected by what the administration is doing, and he hasn't admitted that it's not happening, he simply said that it didn't happen to his family, that he believes in his heart of hearts that Trump will do the right thing and make sure that the money from the tariffs will trickle down to the hands of the farmers who have been negatively affected. Now, you and I probably both know that's probably not happening. But you're not really gonna be able to change somebody's mind on that. Not really.
And if he don't, I really be pissed.
I would be too.
Yeah.
I would be too.
You know.
I've got friends up in Ranger who live off of farming. I've got friends over in Iowa. That kind of stuff, it would make me mad because it would affect people I care about personally.
And it affect our whole country.
It would. Like I think America should export more goods.
Are you mad because Bill Gates has bought all the damn farmland up?
Oh yeah.
In China?
I am upset.
Then China bought the farmland next to our military bases.
Mm-hmm.
These people don't know shit over here.
I'm also upset that we have a Qatari military base being built here.
Huh?
I'm also upset we have a Qatari military base being built over here.
I don't like it either.
See, that's what I'm saying though. So I'm further on the left, you're further on the right, and we have found two things at least we agree on. Neither of us are okay with Qatari influence coming into the United States.
I mean,
and both of us are pro-freedom.
I mean, if we do, we should charge them out the ass. They got the money.
I mean, if they can give us jets, they've got the money to pay better taxes here, right?
Yes.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you having a conversation with me. It means the world to me.
Yes, sir. All right.
And hopefully you don't get harassed too terribly much.
I don't get harassed. Damn police don't even know who these people are. You
Understandable.
Know who they are. You know they ain't a jump on. They might cuss you, and I cuss them back. I go so many stuff with them, but you get some damn cops involved, there are problems.
Fair.
Okay, so what's funny, now I didn't catch this part on video because as far as I was concerned, the conversation was over, but shortly after that conversation, he actually walked away. Like, within a couple minutes of that conversation being over, he just left. Now, I don't know if he had some other thing that he needed to get to or what, but he just wasn't there anymore after like 2 or 3 minutes after our conversation. So I don't know what was going on there that led to that. Like I said, maybe he had some family thing to get to. Who knows? Who knows? But like I said, that was the far more interesting part of this to me. Because you all know that a protest happened. You all know that a bunch of people went to the No Kings protest. That's not really that interesting. It was one of the biggest protests in American history. Cool. Is it going to accomplish anything? But that's going to be something for the history books to figure out. I've given you my opinions on protests before. I think their utility is uniting people together under a shared grievance so that people can find those around them who are politically activated so that they can engage in further political activism down the road. For a lot of people, the No Kings protest is quite literally the first thing that they've ever done politically. My hope is that it won't be the last thing they do. Max says it rallied support. Support is power. Right. They have to do something with it afterwards, though. Support without an action plan is, well, it's lib shit. I'm just going to say it in the nicest way possible. It is lib shit. It is the idea that all of us uniting together is in fact the goal, when no, that is step one in a multi-step plan. Support is power. Cool. We have to be able to do something with that support. If something is not done with that support afterwards, then that is an issue. That is, in and of itself, a problem. My hope is that people who have gone to this protest, especially the ones who went in my local area, are going to take this time and recognize that they need to be politically active in more areas than just here. Going to a No Kings protest does not oust Trump. It does not get a politician elected. It doesn't do any of that. It does get you around your people, though. And for a lot of us, we have not yet been around our people politically outside of our atomized online spaces. Goj says, I have some pretty optimistic and pretty pessimistic opinions on this. The fact that you recognize this as limp shit implies to me that you're on a similar train of thought as me. So I actually did not I'm gonna fully mask off here. I didn't say limp shit. I said lib shit. So my problem with a lot of like liberal tendencies in the United States is that we tend to see that the liberal side of the US really likes the idea of social change and then does not do anything to further that. They don't engage in any of it. They're very politically deactivated. The idea that things will go to the correct status quo is just, well, it's not really true. Alt says that's the worst word to a leftist. Liberals are capitalists. I'm not a capitalist. Said liberals like ideas more than action. They're far more keyboard monitor oriented than activist. And that's where I feel. That's where I am. That's where I am. Now, I may not go out and do as much as I should, but I do think after this, I am going to go and try to do more interviews with right-wing people at events like this. I enjoyed doing that, and I feel like I was able to navigate that conversation in a way that did not escalate into anything and gave us some information that is worth digesting, personally. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section below. When this goes up on YouTube, I want to know y'all's opinions. Did you gain anything from that conversation? Was that useful to you? Did you get something that you think you can use later on? And if so, what was it? I would like to know. I would personally like to know. But for now, this was my experience at the No Kings protest. And I want to hear about yours in the comment section below if you did go to one. Hey, you made it to the end. I want to give an extra thanks to the patrons who allow me to do this full time. I want to thank Aaron Rail, Astral, Britzkrieg, Jemshin, Poundini, Red Joker, Victoria, Jonas, Craig, Tarika, Fireshard, Smiling GM, John, Dren Hadamada, Creeper, Sagitta, you know I'm not saying that last part, Valis of Seraph, Ottoman Angel, Rooster Rachel, and Fire Panda, who are all my $20 and up patrons.